How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to have our first RTS game on the Dissected series, a real-time strategy game. This also happens to be an indie game, and the reason why this game caught my eye is because it's made by ex-Blizzard developers, and you are going to see that all over the visuals of this game. And yeah, Blizzard art is one of the reasons why I became a 3D artist. It's a style that I really love. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to say that this game just came out of early access, so it has some issues and certain things that I'm going to be pointing out. Please know that if any devs or any fans of the games are watching, I'm just saying this as constructive criticism. I want this game to succeed because it's more StarCraft. That's what I wanted. I want this game to do well. So I'm going to be pointing some things that might seem very negative, but I just want them to improve, and I would love to see this game realize its full potential because so far it's pretty good. Now let's get started.
Fight, cower. Either way, your world will fall.
So Stormgate, this is a real-time strategy game made with Unreal Engine 5. Now, because of the nature of real-time strategy games and the art style that this has, I don't see this as utilizing like all the new bells and whistles and toys that come with Unreal Engine 5. I didn't see any ray tracing or real-time ray tracing in the options, thank God. But everything, performance-wise, everything was doing well. I didn't see any hitches. Of course, I do have a 5090, but there were no crazy options when it comes to the visuals. I run this on super high and it looks pretty good. One of the things that I really liked about the visuals of these games is, at least in the campaign, which is what I'm playing here, it gets a little bit closer to the characters, so you can see them a little bit more. Not like in StarCraft where everything is pulled so far apart that, you know, units are very tiny. So this is a little bit closer to the characters, and I do like that. Another thing that I really like is how they did the facial motion. So when you're in mission and one of the characters is talking, I do like how the facial motion works. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit off, but I think it's a very nice touch. One of the things that I would like is if they could actually animate the portraits of the characters like they have in StarCraft 2. I think that's something that can be done in Unreal Engine without much hitches. So hopefully that's something that they would implement in the future. The other thing that I love about this game is the art style. Some people, I've seen some reviews on Steam about the game saying that they do not like the cartoony art style. I personally love it. This is something in between StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3. So combining the sci-fi, it has a lot of paneling and a lot of elements from StarCraft 2, but it also has the vibrancy and the kind of like cartoony painterly look that Blizzard had in Warcraft 3. The way that the lighting is done, the VFX are also stylized, which I think is pretty cool. The game mechanics is straight out of StarCraft. There's not much that I can say there because everything on this game is mechanics from StarCraft, which I think it's a good thing. I really love those mechanics, and the fact that we get another game that has those same mechanics, I'm all on board of that. The units do work the same. I haven't played much of the other factions, but the humans seem to have this system where your units level up. I remember this being a thing back in Command & Conquer Generals, where your units actually gain rank the more kills they got. So you not only were interested in keeping your units safe, but if you had a group of units that had a higher rank than everyone else, that was something that would kept you like looking after those units because you wanted those units to not die because they had the highest rank. Now, so far, everything's positive, but this game being in early access has some issues. And again, this is constructive criticism. I'm not trying to be mean to the game. It's just some things that I saw and that they need to be fixed. So one thing that needs fixing is these dialogue boxes. When you are talking in like the hub of the human campaign, And you are like, when these portraits pop up, you can see that the way that the body for the soldier is rendered is, it doesn't go with that head. That head has too much detail for that body. So to me, it kind of looks like somebody photoshopped the head onto that body, which it looks a little bit off. And same thing with the main protagonist, the woman Amara. She went through a little bit of an overhaul. Back when I started researching about this game, I saw a model of her that had terrible proportions. I don't know how that got greenlit, but thankfully they changed it. So the model looks better, but there's still something off about her. All right, so that is it for the game breakdown. Let's go into Blender so we can take a look at the models. All right, we start with a human unit. I have several units here from different factions. Again, if you want to see more about this game, just let me know in the comments. And if I see a lot of people commenting and liking this video, then I will make more videos about this game, because I can talk several hours about this art style and yeah, everything that's on this game. So as you can see, the textures, I loaded the normal maps and diffuse. There's no roughness or anything else, just, you know, a little bit of roughness that I added with the Blender node. But you can see that he is kind of painterly, but does have a lot of detail. I like his rifle. This is from what I could tell, because I couldn't find the cinematic models. So I'm just guessing that the cinematic models are not there for any reason, and we just have the units that are in the game, because this looks pretty much the way he looks in the game. This is a 1024 by 1024 texture. So even though it's not the highest res textures that we have nowadays, still looks pretty nice with the normals and everything. You can see the detail on here. If you ask me, I wouldn't have added this normal map detail to this. I would have kept him into this style right here, where yes, there might be a roughness difference here. I would have added more detail with the roughness, as opposed to add detail here with the normal maps, because it kind of looks like this is from another asset that doesn't go on this character, at least in my opinion. Now you can see that this is a very low poly asset for today's standards. Of course, you can see him with his rifle is about 17,452 polygons. So if you're making an asset for an RTS, now you know you have to keep in between a range of, I would say, sub 40,000 polys, because I've seen StarCraft 2 is a little bit higher than this. We're going to talk about StarCraft in the future. Make sure you subscribe for that. And yeah, most of the geometry that you see here is to hold the bake, because the normal maps are doing a lot of lifting when it comes to an asset as low poly as this one. Now, this guy is one mesh for the most part. So if we go into edit mode and let's select something, you can see that we pretty much select half of his body. We're going to talk about why we select half of his body in the texturing section. But you can see he's pretty much one unit. So if one of the things that we can hide is maybe his head. And even if we hide his head, and you can see what's left is the teeth and the tongue. But you can see the suit is actually one whole unit, and it's completely welded. So this suit is welded all over it. Same deal with the gun. The gun is super low poly. There's not that much detail with the geometry. Most of the detail, like I said, it's created with the normal map. So with that said, let's look at the textures. So as you can see, this is one of the techniques that I mentioned in my past video of how you UV'd your characters. Just put things that are mirrored outside of the 0 to 1 space, in this case to the right, because we're using Unreal Engine. You can see this also is a square textures. In the channel, we've had games where the texture is actually a rectangle, it's not squared. But in the case of Unreal Engine, if you want the maps to work, then you need to have a square textures. But these are just parts that are mirror. You can see that it's pretty much one side that it's outside here. And one of the reasons why this character is cut in half, because this character is totally symmetrical. So you can save time unwrapping, just unwrap one side, and then just symmetry the other side and put it outside to the 0 to 1 space, so you can save a lot in space textures. All right, and we have the head in here. You can see that everything it's big. So he was divided into, from the looks of it, 3 different materials, whereas the body, the head, and the rifle. And that way, because these maps are, again, not super low res, but 1024 by 1024, it's kind of low res for something nowadays. In this case, you do want to use as much as you can of your texture real estate. So you can see the eyes here it's very big. It's occupying a lot of texture space. Now, moving on to the angels. This is one of the, it's called Animancer. This is kind of like the Protoss. It would be the equivalent of this sort of race-wise when it comes to the factions in the game. But you can see how she is modeled. The texture is very painterly overall. Pretty cool. Again, just normal maps and diffuse. I really like how these characters look. And if we do wireframe, this one is even lower than the character that we saw before. She's 11,000 triangles. So what's interesting about this is that she's pretty much cut in half, minus something that I apparently grabbed over here. But you can see that half of her is on the outside of the 0 to 1 space. So this is a great way to, again, save time. And not only are you saving space when you're doing your UVs, but you're also saving a lot of time, because you UV half of the character and the other half of the character is just on the outside of the 0 to 1 space, and you just use a symmetry modifier. The other thing is that you can see that it's just half of her face here in the 0 to 1 space. That's something that we haven't seen before in other games. Usually the face is complete into the 0 to 1 space, but in this case, because she is one single unit, you can see that they broke the head part into 2 pieces because her head is completely symmetrical. So yeah, pretty interesting overall. You're going to find that each chapter of the Dissected series has something new, because every game that we review here has something new to offer. So make sure you watch the whole playlist. You're going to find a lot of cool things that each game does differently. Now let's move on to another unit. All right, here we have, well, this is pretty much 2 characters, but it's 1 unit. This is a unit from the Demons faction. This would be kind of like your Zerg unit if you were in StarCraft, but these guys are supposedly from Demon Realms. I'm still not quite sure about that part of the history, and probably need to play more of the game. But you can see pretty cool design overall. You have the rider here on top, which again, his mesh ends right here. And you have this mount, which I think is pretty cool. I like the design. Rocks all over the body and this kind of head. Still fairly low, even though you have 2 units here. This is 11,462. So not that high poly for something that is including 2 units. Something that has a rounded surface here. Pretty several rounded surfaces. So this is the optimization part. When you're doing an RTS, you're going to have a ton of units on the ground at one single point, and there's going to be a lot of VFX going on. There's going to be a lot of management that needs to be done by the hardware. So you need to keep your geometry down, because it's not one single unit that you're going to have on screen. Now, if we look at the UVs for this character, everything is in one single texture map. So nothing is mirrored on the outside, which to me is surprising, because I see a lot of symmetry on this character, but I guess they just didn't want to do that. Again, these are units that you're seeing kind of like at this distance. So that's why you can cram a lot of things into a texture that is kind of small like this. But to me, this character looks great. So even though you have a low resolution texture, character still looking fantastic. Now this unit that we have right here, she is the protagonist, at least from what I saw, the campaign from the humans. She is the protagonist of the whole thing, and this is one of the things that I was talking in the beginning, where I don't know why there's something about this model that is a little bit off. She was improved from previous model because this is how she looked in the past. I honestly don't know how that got greenlit to be a game mesh, because the proportions were horrible, but at least they changed it and they made it better. But I still don't think it's there. Just let me know in the comment sections down below, what do you think is off about her, or is it just me? I think is the ratio from like the head into the body and then the legs. I still think there is something that is off right here, especially compared to something like this, where again, this is not supposed to be human, but you see that her figure, her proportions are fine. Like her proportions lend well into this character, whereas if you go into something like her, so maybe just keep this character for as a unit and don't use it for cinematics or for some other things. Like, other than that, I do like the way she's textured. She is textured what I would call the Blizzard way. This paneling, when we talk about StarCraft 2 and Overwatch, you're going to see the pattern of a Blizzard game, and why I'm calling it this, like the Blizzard like paneling and all that, because there's a lot of this, there's a lot of this kind of panel as a trim, there's this type of armor on a lot of characters. So yeah, you can see that her geometry is much higher than the other characters, because she is used a lot in like, not cutscenes, but when the characters are talking, giving you the mission briefings, she's a little bit closer than the other units. So that's why she has a little bit more geometry than the other characters that I've shown you so far. So if I turn on the geometry, there's a lot of geometry on the face, which is nice because there is a part where she does have facial motion. I don't know if it's a different model than this one. It kind of looks like it's still this model. But yeah, I think the reason for the density is because they wanted some facial motion there, which I don't know if they're using MetaHuman Animator or not. If any of the devs are watching, I'll be super curious to know if you guys are using MetaHuman Animator for those little talking portraits that you have inside the game. And if we look at the weapons, very low, kind of like, it reminds me a lot of the guns from Tracer in Overwatch. But you can see that polygon wise, the normals are the ones that are doing all the heavy lifting here. Now this character, just like the other male human character that we saw, is separated in different materials. You can see the head has its own texture. There's a pretty big eye. There's a lot of texture spaces being dedicated to the eyes. Usually the eyes are not that big, because if you're doing a character where the eyes need a lot of detail, then you just do the eyes in a completely different material. But maybe that's one of the reasons why it's so big, and I just answered my own question. And you can see there's a lot of things that are mirrored here, except for, I'm guessing, this part right here, which it's mirrored too. Let me see one thing. Okay, so I think they just cut this piece in half, and that's how they mirror. That's another way to do it. So if you have a character that's non-symmetrical, but you want to save some real estate on your texturing, you can see that I think they sliced this thing in half. Half her body is on the outside and the other half is on the inside, just as I imagine. This seems to be a pattern on these characters. There's also something that is done a lot in Blizzard models. One of the things that the only thing that is not Blizzard about these models is usually the characters are, the UVs are rectified. So if you saw my previous video about bot advice for artists and we took a look at Tracer, a lot of Blizzard models are usually rectified, meaning that the UVs are completely squared. I haven't seen that here. Like, there's Blizzard all over the place on these characters, aside from the UV portion, which again, doing the UVs the Blizzard way takes a lot of time. It saves a lot of space and it looks pretty nice, but it takes a lot of time to make UVs like that. So I can picture them doing that like this, because it's an indie company. They don't have a lot of budget. They don't have all the time in the world. So I get that. All right, everybody, that is it for this video. Do you want to see more of this game? Please let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about Stormgate? Have you tried? This game is free to play, by the way, if you want to try it. I would suggest you just give it a go. It's fun. If you like RTSs, whether you play StarCraft for the campaign or for the competitive stuff, I recommend that you at least give it a try, because bugs aside, it was a really cool game and it's free to play. So there's that. Now, as always, please leave a like. It helps the channel a lot these days. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because this is the kind of stuff that we do on the channel. My socials are downstairs if you want to follow me on X. And I'll see you in the next one.